What is going on, guys? LeoBlade13 here, and it is finally time to talk about these Elder Dragons. This is something that I thought was really awesome that they were doing. I mean, the game is called Dragoborne. We need more dragons in this game. And so, each of the colors has gotten a 5-drop dragon with 5 attack, 5 endurance, with similar conditions for effects. So their first effect is always a matching colored dice with a value of between 1 and 4, including 1 and 4, and then a second ability with a dice value of 3 to 6, and then a third ability is activated whenever they're Drago crossed with any color dice. So ideally, you would want to play 2 colors in, or 2 banners of the matching color with them, although you don't need to, because if you roll a 3 or a 4, you can activate all of their abilities, which I think is awesome, and I think this is something that is going to help this game thrive, and, it's going to make these cards more sought after, and these are all double rare cards, so I'm really curious to see what the other double rares are going to be, because these are all phenomenal, and I really like where this game is going, and the artwork on all of them looks incredible. So, kicking things off, we have the red one, Eldron, Lord of the Blaze. So his first ability, which is the 1 to 4 effect, is when this creature attacks, choose an opposing creature. For this turn, the creature's attack must be blocked by that creature if able. So it essentially forces the block, which I really like. I mean, it's got 5 attack and 5 endurance, which means it's probably going to be destroying whatever it is. And then it also goes hand in hand with their other abilities, which I also really like how each of their individual abilities synergize with each other. So it's like having 3 different cards on the field in just one card. But anyways, his second ability is when this creature is summoned, it gets continuous. When this creature deals damage to a fort, it deals 2 damage instead. So I believe, well, the wording for this is kind of tricky. So I want to say that it's only the turn that it is summoned. However, it gains a continuous effect. So I think that as long as you summon it when there is a 3 to a 6 on the field, it will gain that ability. So then, even on your next turn, if you roll 3 ones, you will still have that ability because it is continuous. Because it's an auto ability, when it is summoned with a 3 to a 6, it gains the continuous ability. So it's kind of tricky wording. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought about this. But yeah, I believe it's gonna work that way. So as long as you summon it while there is a 3 to a 6, it will gain that ability until it leaves the field. So it's essentially a mini Terrax, which is kind of awesome. And then hand in hand with the last ability, when this creature destroys a blocking creature in battle, deal 1 damage to the fort being attacked. So, if you're able to trigger all of these effects in the same turn, you can choose a creature that has to block the attack, and then if it destroys the creature, you get to do 1 damage to the fort, and then based off the second ability, you get to deal 2 damage to that fort instead. So, I really like how powerful this card is. It may push Fafnir out. I think Fafnir is still really good, but this card just puts a lot more pressure on the field, I think. I mean, Fafnir and Eldrun is going to be a deadly combination, which it's going to be interesting to see what happens when Oath of Blood comes out. But, I mean, we have seen some crazy effects for red, and I've been riding the red hype train for such a long time, and just this card just shows the power that red has. But moving on to the next card, we've got the blue one, Ulrisk, Lord of the Glacier. So its first ability is when this creature attacks, choose an opposing creature and rest it. So gets over Teriel, which is probably going to be a problem for the next year or so. I don't see that card going anywhere. So gets over that, gets over any other annoying blocker. And then the second ability is when this creature is summoned, choose an opposing creature, rest it, and it does not stand during your opponent's next stand step. So that hits Teriel a lot harder. It hits like any card that wants to be destroyed or that wants to be attacking. It hits them really hard because your opponent essentially loses 2 more turns with them. They lose their turn using them, and then they lose your next turn using them. So this card is simply fantastic, and I really like it. And then the final ability is when this creature attacks, return all cost 1 or less creatures to their owner's hands. So completely shuts down any small decks, but by the time you're playing this, it's gotta be turn 5 or turn 2, turn 3, somewhere around that, where you have 5 to 6 resources on the field, but your opponent's also going to have about the same amount of resources. So if they're playing something with low cost, they're just going to be able to summon them all over again. And if it's mono red and they have a Vylon on the field, they're going to get to trigger all of that damage onto your Drago Shields once more because Vylon is not a cost 1 creature. So I do think this card has a lot of potential. I mean, Hydra is already pretty good, but I feel like this just does a lot more, which it should. These are going to be the new dragons. They're going to want to kind of power creep out the old dragons. And I think having these cards be just slightly better gives it room to run like 2 of these, 2 Hydras, kind of mix and match with Rally to War. But I think when the 3rd set comes around, I think that might be when Rally to War starts to really diminish. But anyways, now we've got the yellow card. So a little bit different here. I couldn't get this one from where I typically do, but this one is off of Dragoborne. So great site. Check it out if you haven't already. Link will be down in the description. But this is Yavel, Lord of the Skies. So his first ability is when this creature attacks, you may move a barrier from an opposing fort to another opposing fort. So you can attack a Drago Shield, destroy it, and move a barrier away from Teriel over to that fort. So gets around Teriel, gets around any of the other blockers. If it's late game, your opponent probably didn't set any Drago Shields up on destroyed forts. You can move it to a fort that is already destroyed and then just get a free attack in. So there's a lot of potential with this card, and I really like it. And that's just the first ability. I would use that if it was just that first ability. But it's got 2 more. So the next ability is when this creature is summoned, draw cards until there are 4 cards in your hand. So kind of awesome, just hand replenishing, which I think is going to be really important with all of the discarding support that black is getting. So between the Elder Dragon, which we're going to take a look at soon, Flesh Shredder, Despair, and the other new cards that we haven't talked about yet, with each of those discarding effects, I feel like yellow is going to be kind of the answer to that deck. I think yellow being able to draw so many cards and essentially gain all of that hand advantage is going to be what kind of counteracts black. And then it'll be interesting to see how red functions within that meta as well. And I feel like blue and green are just going to kind of be teched into those different colors. I think black is going to prosper, yellow is going to prosper, and red is going to prosper. Then the final ability is when this creature attacks, cost 1 or less creatures cannot block for this turn. So again, more rush hate like the blue card, but this just forces them not to block. They're still going to be on the field. Unlike with Ulrisk, you are going to have to force your opponent to re-summon them again. So summoning sickness doesn't exist in this game, but they are going to have to use those resources once more to pay for those cards that were already on the field. So I think in that aspect, blue does shine a little brighter, but just for that first effect, I think that is amazing. Then we've got the green one, Gravos, Lord of the Loam. So his first ability is at the end of your turn, stand all creatures with 6 or more endurance. So that seems like a high cost to pay, but with his next ability, it really softens that blow. So second effect is when this creature is summoned, all of your creatures get +0, +5 for this turn. So I would really like this in like a red rush deck with Goblin Madcaps and Toe Stabbers. You pretty much summon all of your red 1/1/1s and then try to keep them on the field as long as you can. Summon Gravos, and then all of them will be at 1/6. You can attack with all of them, presumably for game because it's Red Rush. And then at the end of your turn, they all get to stand and block, which I think is awesome. And then it's also got Dragocross ability. When this creature attacks, all of your creatures get +1/+0 for this turn. So giving that little extra edge to all those small creatures, I think that's where this card is really gonna like find its niche. But I mean, this is by far the most supportive one. I don't think it functions on its own. I think this has to have a deck built around it. And now moving on to the final and best one in my opinion, Senis, Lord of the Rampage. So first ability, when this creature attacks, choose a cost 2 or less creature from your discard pile and return it to your hand. So more of that adding to your hand that we've seen with Cavalier and Halcyon, which is kind of interesting. Just seen as black is usually discarding your opponent's card effects and then adding your own from the grave back to your hand. Just kind of a cool little aspect that it has. And then second ability, when this creature is summoned, your opponent discards all but one card from their hand. So if you can get this out really quickly, your opponent is gonna have to essentially have no cards in their hand. They get one card which they get to choose. So when their turn comes around, they're gonna have 2 cards in their hand. But I think this card is gonna be really great in a black green deck where you can kind of ramp up to this card, summon this as fast as you can, make your opponent discard, and then if they manage to destroy it, use Nature's Touch to bring it back, get the effect again, and using 2 black dice, you're gonna have a better chance of having a 3 to a 6. And that's another thing that I didn't mention about these cards earlier, is that their ability has 4 different numbers that you can roll. So I really like that. I mean, other cards we've been seeing, they've been having like ranges of 2 to 3, which I guess that is technically here because of the 3 to 4 that you need to activate both effects. But with this card, I think as long as you have a 3, 4, 5, or 6, I think this card will do what it needs to do. And then its final ability is when it's Dragocrossed, if your opponent has 2 or less cards in their hand, this creature cannot be blocked by creatures. So I do really like that, and synergizes perfectly with that second ability where your opponent only has 1 card in their hand, and then he can't be blocked. So not only are you forcing them to discard all their cards, you're getting a free attack in, and of course that's going to give them more cards, but they aren't going to have this stuff that they possibly need or kind of drew into or were saving for a later time of the game. So I think black is really going to shine in the future of this game. So yeah, let me know down below what card or what Elder Dragon was your favorite, and how excited are you for Oath of Blood? With all these reveals, I'm really excited for some new card effects, and even the art just looks different yet so amazing. So yeah, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this around. Let's try to get some more hype going around Dragoborne, because I know we've kind of hit that phase where it's starting to kind of slack off a little bit. So we really want to keep this game going. So be sure to pass this around. If your friend is on the border of getting into it, maybe show them this video with these awesome dragons. And yeah, I mean, we're getting set 2. We haven't heard anything about set 3 yet. I mean, even before Rally to War was released, we knew we were getting Oath of Blood, but we haven't heard anything about a set 3 yet. So maybe they're waiting to see how this set does. But yeah, I think the way that they're doing this is working out great. So you can also let me know down below what you think of the game in general. Do you think it's going to succeed in the long run, or do you think we're going to be left with only handful of sets. But anyways, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to catch more videos. And as always, thanks for watching.